Welcome back to another edition of the Spurs Chat podcast, where I'm delighted to tell you this evening we'll be talking about Spurs' absolutely fantastic win against Southampton, 5-0 at St Mary's. We've got three very special guests with us tonight. We've got Becky back with us, we've got Ricky Norwood, and we've got Cole Jones. We'll come on to you guys in a minute, but let's just, before we move on, while we're all in a good mood, please, if you get a chance, please can you vote for us in the Spurs Sports Podcast Awards. We are a finalist in the Best Team Podcast. So the link should be at the top of this chat. It's all over Chris's socials. If you can vote for us, that would be brilliant. And hopefully we will be able to bring a trophy back home to the channel early in 2025. So actually, Carl, you're up for an award in that as well. Do you want to quickly plug that before we carry on?
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm obviously not up against the mighty Chris Cowlin, otherwise I might as well pack up and go home now. I'm in Best Sports Comedy Podcast for my podcast, When Football Began Again. It's a Premier League nostalgia podcast. So while you're there voting for Chris, if you head over to Best Sports Comedy, look for When Football Began Again. I would love your vote in that. With no competition with Chris, because as I say, no chance.
Well done, Carl. Anyway, you've not been going long, have you? But to get nominated, we always say you're actually a winner for just getting nominated. But so that's well done, mate. Very, very best wishes and good luck with that. Tonight we are live on YouTube as always. We're live on X, Facebook, and Twitch. So get involved and let us know your thoughts on the game and how you're feeling as a Spurs fan right now. I'd imagine you're as happy as we are. And this podcast is also available on all major audio platforms. I've said, please vote for us. And the reason why you need to vote for us, and Ricky, you can sell this for us as well before we come to you. We've been the #1 football podcast in 11 countries this year. 11 countries. That is monumental. So, Ricky, how are you feeling? Sell this podcast to everybody because Chris is doing some fantastic work.
Well, you know what? If you're a fan of this podcast, it doesn't need selling. You guys know already. I mean, the man, the myth, the legend that is Chris Cowlin, who can't be with us tonight, goes to every single game that he can go to. Not just the first team, but he goes to under 21s, under 16. He goes to the women's game. He goes to as many games as he can, as well as internationals as well. Pre-season, if you remember that crazy pre-season game, straight after the end of the season when it was in Australia, I think it was like 48 hours after the very last game of last season, Chris Cowlin was on that plane and he was giving us coverage and he was giving us the insight and the behind the scenes type of insight that you fans already love. When it comes down to the podcast itself, you know what you get here. You get balance first and foremost. You get true fan opinion. We don't claim to be experts, but you get true fan opinion and as much balance as you can take. Either which way, whether we win, lose, or draw, we always finish the show smiling and with a joke or two. So if you are a fan of this podcast already, bless you, thank you from all of the countries around the world, not just the ones that we're in #1 at. We're in 11 countries right now, soon to be 22. We're going to double it very, very soon. And then we'll take over the world, guys. We'll take over the world. But thank you to every single one of you guys around the world. And listen, if you love it and you support this podcast, then give us a little vote on that awards link that Craig just showed you there. And it would be much appreciated. Sending you all big love.
Brilliant, Rick. Well, I'll take it from that you're feeling well. That was going to be my next question. You're all good?
Yeah, man. I'm all good. My sleep pattern at the moment is all over the shop. I was just finished filming the Christmas movie that I went away for, so that's just finished wrapping up. It went really, really well. Everybody's happy. I'm looking forward to seeing what it looks like next year. It's a long wait, but it went really, really well. There was a lot of good work, a lot of fun, a lot of hijinks. My character's off the wall and crazy, and it was great to play. But doing that and working at crazy hours, we was out in that storm. We was out filming in that storm at about 2 a.m. On a couple of occasions. So after all of that, my sleeping pattern is so out of whack. So today, even after the game, just between we got on the show, I had to have a little bit of a snooze and then wake up and go, oh my gosh, we got the pod. Oh my gosh, it's the first time I'm back. So I'm waking up, but
Brilliant.
I'm just pleased to be back on. I've missed you guys. I've missed the boys. I've missed 3 points. And I've missed the positive vibes on this show. So can't wait to jump in with these beautiful people next to us.
Brilliant. Nice to have you back, Rick. So, Carl, how are you?
I'm very good. I'm not gonna claim to be as tired as Ricky is after sort of 6 weeks of filming or whatever he's been doing, and just all those different hours. I've had a very busy weekend of Christmas gigs, so I'm also running on caffeine and vibes. But thankfully, when I kind of got this in, when Chris said, "Do you want to come on the show tonight?" I was thinking, well, that could be tough. I've got to take the kids to school in the morning. It's a really busy weekend. If we lose 3-0 to Southampton, this is going to be a slog. So I'm pleased to be here and talking about a really, really thrilling performance. It's just the ever Jekyll and Hyde of Tottenham Hotspur Football Club, isn't it? But that's why we love them, / sometimes don't love them.
Yeah, I know what you mean. And Becky, lovely to have you back as well. How are you?
Yes, very good, thank you. I haven't been filming away for 6 weeks, but I also wanted to have a little power nap between the end of the game and this pod as well. I was thinking, need to look like I'm not just like nodding off. So apologies if I yawn. I am listening, I am paying attention. But if I have like a really strong coffee this time, and I actually won't be able to go to bed, and I've got school in the morning. So yeah, it's great to be back. I'm saying similar really. When we kind of the up and down games we've had, you kind of think when you're going to go on a pod, what are you going to get? But thankfully, we've got loads of goals and great things to talk about tonight. So yeah, thanks for having me back.
No problem at all. Well, obviously the way the game went, Becky, I know you might have to leave us about 11, but most of the action was in the first half, wasn't it, as we know? And when we look at this, as we know, 5-0 Tottenham Hotspur, great first half display, and just saw the game out in the second half, very professional. Goals from Maddison, who got 2 goals, Heung-min Son, Kulu and Sarr, assists by Jed Spence. And Sonny got 2 more assists, and he is now a record holder, in fact, which we'll come on to a little bit later. The stats of the match, see 5-0, as we said, the possession, Southampton 41% to Tottenham's 58%. Shots, Southampton 9 to Spurs 18. Shots on target 3 to 9, favourite Tottenham. Touches in the opposition box, Southampton 15, Tottenham 28. Goalkeeper saves 4 apiece, fouls 8, Southampton 15, Tottenham, and corners 2 to Southampton and 5 to Spurs, which means after all that hard work tonight, Spurs are up to 10th in the Premier League on 23 points. Seems like you should be awarded more points for more goals, doesn't it? But you know what? It's a marathon, not a sprint. So, we go again. We've got a big game Thursday and then a big game next Sunday, which we'll come on to against Liverpool a bit later on. So just coming to you, could guys that are not talking just go on mute if you don't mind? To get a little bit of feedback. Thank you very much. Right, Rick, actually, let's come to you first, Rick. How was that game? How did you feel that went? Obviously, big smiles.
No, I think it was a fantastic performance. I mean, we all know it was a fantastic performance, but it was a needed performance, Like, we really needed that. The boys needed that. Ange needed that. I think every single one in the fan base needed that. Look, we know that Southampton are bottom of the league. It's easy to say that they're a poor side and they're a promoted side and they're finding it very tough in the league right now. All of those things are true, but we've been up against teams that are in similar positions and we haven't been able to come away with those 3 points. The team itself has been under so much pressure recently with this bad period of games, this run of games that we've been going through. We needed to see a bit of the other side, and we needed those boys, like the bosses asked for, to stand up and fight. And you saw that from every single one of those. I was so impressed with Spence today. I'm so happy that he came on. He continues to be the game changer on that bench or in the squad there. Every time he comes on, every time he plays, there's something about him. He's got a great way of running. He dribbles well. He's got a great way of pass. He loves to attack. That first goal was all down to Spence and his tenacity and his will to show what a good player he is. He's taking his opportunities. So I was really impressed with him today. You know, Archie Gray at centre back, he didn't have much to deal with, but the things that he did deal with, he dealt with well. You know, again, like it was just his calmness, and he wasn't afraid of anything. He met the challenge head on. So that was great to see as well. You know, Bergvall getting a 90 minutes, even though he was cramping up at the end there. You know, had a good game. He didn't have an outstanding game, but had a good game in him. You know, and got bashed around and felt what the Premier League was about, but came out on the other end. And there were good performances all over the park. You know, Kulusevski is just unbelievable right now. He's just doing things in that team that are, you know, are mind-blowing. And again, he hasn't reached his peak yet. So it's exciting times, and it's good to see an exciting performance, and it's good for those players. Maddison as well. Wow, outstanding performance today as well as Sonic, the team, you know. But it was good. It was a good boost for the boys. It's not just the 3 points, that performance as well. Going into the week that we're going into, it's a great confidence boost, and it's a great belief boost as well, to kind of go, no, listen, when we do play our way, we are phenomenal. We do play fantastic football. We can score goals and keep a clean sheet. So it's another kind of jolt to everybody to go, keep believing, keep the faith. We're going in the right direction. And I think that was that. We just need to continue that, because we've got a big week ahead now.
Yeah, absolutely. Carl, what was your thoughts on the game? Because obviously this is a huge win for Tottenham. I think it was an important win as well ahead of that big game on Thursday. And at the end, obviously the fans were ecstatic, but there was certain chants from the fans, obviously singing Angie's name, which was great, but there was also chants about certain members of the board as well, which seemed to be going on during the game as well. So it was a kind of the away fans were brilliant as always, but it was very loud, wasn't it? So what were your thoughts on the game and your thoughts on that?
Well, I think first off, I suppose on the game, you know, quick start, picking up on what Rick's just been saying about Spence as well. I watched with my son, who's 15. He absolutely loves Spence. He was so excited to see that Spence was starting. I think, you know, the flashes we've seen of Spence, if you've seen him playing for Forest in that kind of promotion season, he looks a really, really exciting player. You know, there's been questions about kind of temperament and stuff. I don't think we've seen a single thing of it. In fact, actually, after the Bournemouth game, it was Spence, I think, that was kind of dragging Ange back away from the fans. So I don't know whether, you know, where all this comes from, but the guy seems to be a really, really good player. Great to see him start, and then to have an impact in the opening minute and set Maddison up for that, absolutely fantastic. So, you know, we have to take into consideration Southampton are not a great side. They're having a really poor season. I don't think any Spurs fan would have said this was a gimme today, going into it on the form that we've been in and just sort of how we've been playing. So there'll always be that kind of claim of, well, it's only Southampton, I think, and that's kind of popping up, I think, already. But, you know, to go and blow a team away like that in the first half, and especially with a big week ahead of us, you know, it meant that actually the second half was so passive. It was almost like a training game at points. I was actually quite surprised to see the possession stats that we hadn't dominated it a little bit more than that. So, you know, I think we were able to take players off, take Sonny off. He's definitely now in a period of his career where he needs that extra 45 minutes in his legs ready for Thursday night. So I think that was a very sensible move. As for the chance, you know, I think the last few weeks have been testing, I think, to say the least. We've been through peaks and troughs, and we know that when it gets toxic, it can get very toxic. And I think more and more fans are you know, a bit fed up, to say the least, of what's been going on. It was very audible. I know he was in the stands as well, so he would have heard it. It's not pleasant. It's not pleasant to hear. It's kind of perhaps a necessary evil. I don't know. It's just kind of the one thing I don't want to see happen with the football club is that we begin ripping ourselves apart. We've had the Romero comments last week that kind of was swept under the carpet a little bit. I kind of thought that could have been a bit more of a PR disaster, and I think the club have dealt with it quite well. They dealt with it very neutrally. Ange kind of talked it down. He apologised. We've all moved on. But we're always going to be, we're very much back in that cycle where when something happens that's negative, that is really, really going to get louder and louder. But obviously on a night like tonight, we blow a team 5-0 and we're still hearing it. I can't remember too many times where we've blown teams away and we've still heard those chants. So I don't know if a tide's turning there again. So interesting to kind of hear that from back home. But I mean, nothing takes away from what was a really, really good first half performance and kind of a controlled, measured one. We let him in nearly once or twice, didn't we, for that clean sheet? I had Pedro Porro in my dream team, so he just got enough minutes for my clean sheet. So, but yeah, a very good performance, very enjoyable, and pleased that that's what we're talking about tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got him in my dream team as well, Carl, for what it's worth. I don't really know what I'm doing with it, to be honest with you, but I'm above my son, so that's all I care about. Becky, your thoughts on the game, and it is interesting to hear those chants still, isn't it? And because I think it's important that we gain some perspective from it, because this is 5-0 win, great, celebrate it, but it's just one game, isn't it? And we know we're up here and we're down here as Spurs fans.
Yeah, and I think some of the broadcasters mentioned it. I know some were saying that GNT didn't, but I think it was mentioned. There's been various pundits this week have mentioned it as well, so it is kind of gaining a little bit more traction there. I think what was clear is, yes, they sang it throughout the game, but they also did sing for the players. So you heard the James Maddison song when he scored, you heard Sonny's song, they sang Sarr's song, and then in between it was the Levy out ones. I think in a game where we were that dominant, it's like those perfect away games that you have. I could hear them saying, "Is it a fire drill?" when people started leaving, just like we sang at the City game. So there are some. It's a carnival atmosphere, isn't it? But I think it's key when you're at home games whether those sort of chants make it to the home games, and that's when the traction builds even more and more. I think going back to the game itself, obviously it was brilliant to have such a fantastic start. I thought Spence's kind of hunger for the first goal was just brilliant. Sonny looked very on it today, and like Bergvall played really strongly. There was lots of really good performances. If I'm going to be slightly negative, I think he should have made subs earlier. I think you could tell that Spence was tiring. Obviously, your doggy got injured. Taking Sonny off early was a good decision, but I don't know why Solanke played as long as he did. And should have got Lancashire on earlier, and so those sort of in-game management things. I think people still sort of say the game was clearly over, but great again from Forster. Like you said already about Archie Gray and how he just seems to step up every match that he plays in. I think Maddison he's very frustrating. Maddison, I said to Jack when I was watching it today, he had 2 assists against City, and then he kind of is largely non-existent for the games in between. Kulusevski's had a fantastic season, but he was very poor in the Bournemouth game. And when we all play well, this is what happens. The games that we've seen this season where we've scored 3-4 goals, and we haven't been battered in any of them, even the ones we've lost. But we need everybody to almost kind of work those sort of interplay and connections, because, like we said, as soon as one person loses, that's when we're kind of having that kind of counter-attacking against us. And it'll be interesting to see how it goes on Thursday. And then obviously Sunday. And Sunday's one of those funny ones, isn't it? Because, Liverpool are playing so well, and, they stumbled a little bit at the weekend. But we just need some consistency. And yes, we've got tough games, and we've got games coming here and there, but so have all the other teams this time of year. So it's just a consistency that we could do with needed. Good sneeze.
Bless you. Yeah, it's funny you say about a doggy there, Becky. Ange Postecoglou was asked after the game about Destiny, because he obviously came off, and Ange said, we'll see how he is. He felt a bit tight in his quads. To be fair, he wanted to continue, but we can't take any risks at the moment, so we took him off with Sonny. I don't think it's anything significant at this stage, and more precautionary, which is good news if that is the case. Becky, let's stay with you. Just coming on to the starting 11, Ange Postecoglou made 5 changes to the team that faced Rangers on Thursday evening. For the first time in his Spurs career, Jed Spence starts a game, and he's brought in from the off with Pedro Porro rotated out as he's named among their subs. Pat Sarr returns to the starting 11 for his 7th consecutive Premier League start, while Lucas Bergvall earned his full Premier League debut as he makes his first start in the competition. The duo replaced the suspended pair of Bissouma and Bentancur. Meanwhile, Kulusevski and Solanke, who came off the bench to link up for our equaliser in a 1-1 draw with Rangers, are both called on to start at St Mary's. Of our 9 subs, 6 have come through the academy, which is great news. Brandon Austin, Alfie Dorrington, Mason King, Malachi Hardy, Callum Elise and Will Lancashire, with defender King named in the Premier League matchday squad for the first time. Our starting 11 was, as you can see on the screen, Forster, Spence, Gray, Dragoshin, Doggy, Sarr, Bergvall, Maddison, Kulusevski, Solanke and Son, with the subs Austin, Porro, Dorrington, Hardy, Elise, Werner, Johnson, Lancashire. Becky, any surprises in that? Were you quite happy for that starting 11?
Well, I think it's just the Spence one, isn't it? After, you know, the kind of the criticism of Werner in a week, we assumed that we would go back to having Son at least on one wing. It possibly could have been Johnson on another and Solanke up front, which was we kind of expected. I know when we were at the City game and Kulusevski were on the wing, we were sort of saying, oh, you know, well, why is he doing that? But when it works, it works. So that was kind of, you know, we have got some sort of strength and depth in kind of that arrangement. But it was the Spence being brought in, and you know, I've seen videos of Ange talking to Porro after the game on Thursday at Rangers. So yeah, you know, but even when he rests Porro or he rotates him or whatever he does, he still ends up getting minutes because there's, you know, inevitably an injury to somebody else. I know that happened with Udogie in one of the European games this week, but this season. So yeah, it was great to see Spence starting. Like I said, I thought he really took his chance really, really well. He was very hungry, and then bearing in mind that when he then changed flanks when Udogie went off as well. Yeah, so that was great to see Spence. I know when you're kind of on Twitter, everyone's sort of saying how wonderful it is, and they're hoping that he would, you know, take his chance. And then I think I've seen snippets of Ange after the game, almost dismissing it as well. He's obviously got some issue with him, but you know, Spence took his chance. Is all you can ask for him. Whether he plays on Thursday, it'd be interesting to see. You know, if Udogie's injured, you will assume that he would, because I still think it's strange that Spence isn't in the Europa League squad, because you know, just the nature of the injuries that we've been getting, muscle injuries and all that sort of, you know, and the fact that Ange likes those players that can be flexible, it still seems a strange decision. So because, you know, it's a Carabao Cup game on Thursday, you would think that it would be between Udogie, Porro and Spence. And Spence has possibly done enough to keep his place. But other than that, I thought it was fine. You know, we knew that Vicario was out. We knew that Romero would be. I think they're saying Davis may be back, you know, either the end of this week or the end of next weekend. So I think other than that, it was pretty much as it was. But even for somebody who knows a lot about Spurs, and you know, I looked at the subs bench and went, oh wow, okay, there's some inexperience on there. So you know, that's what I said. You know, when we were kind of 5-0 up at half time, why didn't we have more subs earlier on? That just seems a bit strange, really.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, somebody who's obviously that was too much for Southampton, Ricky, because Southampton have just sacked Russell Martin, so he's gone. We've inflicted the final nail in the coffin. So yeah, I think you never like to see a manager lose his job, but it was kind of coming, wasn't it? Anyway, enough about Southampton. What do you make of that lineup, Rick? I think Becky's covered it off well, but it does go to show that we're quite light still with all these injuries. 10 first-team players, I think, on the out on the treatment table. So it's just getting through games, isn't it, at the moment? And hope our big stars come back sooner rather than later.
Yeah, absolutely, bro. And I think we will need to take this into account as fans as well. The amount of people that are on the injured list and the amount of players that we are without. And you look at Man City right now, and they've had a few players out for a while, and they've had like, what is it, 1 win in 11 now, I think it is, or 10, I'm not sure. But that ain't the Man City of old, and you've seen how much, you know, injuries have affected the way that they play and the results that they get. And, you know, we haven't got the strongest, the deepest of squads, especially for the Premier League. So when you're dealing with the young ones as well, asking them to come in at this period of time, Christmas time, this Christmas period with so many games in a short amount of time is tough. And, you know, the boys have had to go through a storm. And for them to come out the other side, you know, Bergvall playing in the 6, I think, today, you know, didn't make no mistakes, really. And that's what you can ask for of a young one. Sarr, I thought, was fantastic. You know, we didn't miss Bissouma or Bentancur with Sarr in today. You know, so sometimes you got to go through a storm to really figure out what type of player you are. And I think these boys are doing that. And I think for the long term, this tough period of time could be beneficial for us and for this squad and for these young ones that we're asking a lot of. You know, we're asking them to play in Europe, Premier League, and go out there and win and go out there and play at the standard as the seniors. And that's where I got a lot of kind of love for Ange during the week. You know, yes, he spoke about Werner, but he was speaking about a lot of those seniors in there as well. You know, he don't want no excuses. I love that as well. He wants people that can stand up to this fight, that can stand up to go to war. And I love that. He put the challenge to him, and you saw not only the young ones, but those seniors on the field tonight take up that challenge. And now we need that to continue.
Absolutely, yeah. Carl, anything you want to say on the game before we come on to the match incidents or the players on the bench or anything you want to comment on there?
I think just as always been picked up with the team, you know, the Spence was the big call, but you know, 18-year-olds in the spine of that team, Bergvall, Gray. I mean, Gray, Southampton were talking about this. They had, you know, friend of Tottenham Hotspur, Aaron Ramsdale, in the studio, lifelong Southampton fan. So that's the only thing that could have improved things if we'd have put 5 goals past him instead tonight. But you know, he was talking about it from a player's perspective, saying, you know, they've got Gray at the back. He's a good footballer, but he's 18. He's playing out of position. He was talking about their game plan very much being, as it would be, target their 18-year-olds that might be playing slightly out of position. So the fact, I think, that, you know, we've got this unbelievable injury crisis that, you know, to not have even Ben Davis, who's kind of really almost the backup to the backup as it is, being out, to have teenagers stepping in to these positions. Southampton are still a Premier League side, even if they're not a particularly good one. And there is an alternative reality here where they could have got on top of us. Our players could have wilted a little bit, and it could have been a very, very different game as we've witnessed. So I think just to reiterate that thing of a young side, really, really young side, young players coming on. And I think the only reason, because I agree with Becky around maybe we could have taken some legs off a bit earlier. The only thinking I had with Solanke was, he wants him to get a goal and then it'll be straight off. But I think he probably could have come off a little bit sooner. He could have maybe had Lancashire on and given him some minutes. But I think it just didn't look like Solanke's night for that tonight. But that would have been nice to go into this week high on confidence. Huge games ahead though. So we needed it.
Yeah, absolutely. And on Bergvall, he hinted there, Postecoglou said after the game that Lucas is growing all the time. Archie is 18. How many Premier League teams are starting with 2 18-year-olds? Jed has had to bide his time, and it's the one area we've got cover with Pedro and Archie, and it's credit to him and the coaches who've worked with him so he could come in and make an impact. And he did, and he absolutely did. Absolutely fantastic. Yeah, and you could see Jed Spence actually was really blowing, wasn't it? So it was a sensible move to take him off, because obviously we're going to need him, you'd imagine, on Thursday, and I think he's probably earned his place in the starting 11. Before we come on to the match incidents, let's hear from the boss, Ange Postecoglou, after the game.
Well, Ange, that was Tottenham's biggest win under you. What was your thoughts after the game?
Yeah, look, outstanding by the players. You know, we had a tough European game away on Thursday night. As I said before the game, we got 10 players unavailable, first team players unavailable out of a list of, 25. So for the lads to come out with that sort of energy and that sort of quality in the first half is just outstanding. We needed to come out quickly, because fair to say we knew we were going to get tight today, because we're asking a lot of some of our players, and others haven't played at all, sort of first starts, and the quality and sort of energy we showed in the first half was outstanding.
Was 36 seconds quicker than what you could have even anticipated for an opening goal?
Yeah, well, look, I've actually said to the boys, we've had great opportunities in the last 3 games within the first sort of minute of the game, and if we had taken them, you put pressure on the opposition, really good chances, and I said to them that before the game, let's be ready. We know we have fast starts, and it was a great endeavour by Jed, and a great finish by Maddison.
Yeah, you must be pleased how Jed Spence took his opportunity tonight.
Yeah, he's had to bide his time. Fair to him that, whenever he's played, he hasn't played a lot, but he's done well for us. We haven't been able to give him too much game time because probably fullback is the one area we've got a bit of cover with Archie there as well. But we needed him to come in, not just play today, but play at a good level, and he did. And it's a credit to his training and the work that the lads, all the coaches do with him to make him ready and be able to perform like that.
Destiny and Doggy, did he come off injured?
Look, he felt something, but he actually wanted to continue, but we just can't take risks at the moment. Like I said, we're down to bare minimum, so I don't think it's anything too bad.
Did you need this tonight with the start of a big week?
Look, it sort of helps in terms of, you just want the players to feel good, get reward for their efforts because, like I said, we're asking a lot from a core group of players because we can't rotate, we can't sort of rest people, and they've been sort of grinding it the last couple of weeks, and you want them to feel good, you want them to get the reward for that, and they will tonight, and recover now and get ready for a big game Thursday.
Ange, thank you very much. Well done.
Yep, a happy Ange, which is what we want to see, isn't it? All the time as this journey continues. Let's get into the match stats and facts and get onto the game itself. Becky, almost instantly in the first minute, this was the fastest goal since Eriksen's goal in 2018 versus United, I think it was. Brilliant run from Jed Spence, sets up James Maddison for a great finish. Talk us through this goal.
Well, yeah, so you kind of said the same thing, really. Like, I think they just about kicked off. The commentators had said that you could either leave you out chance, and then Spence, kind of wins the ball, plays it forward, and then, Maddison kind of times his run perfectly, and then kind of slots it through the keeper's legs, doesn't he? The thing I tweeted immediately after the goal is that it felt like Maddison's kind of celebration was a little bit sort of restrained, really. I know he did the kind of the darts throw, but it kind of felt like it wasn't his usual enthusiastic self. It kind of that improved, I think, as the game went on. But I think it was an indication of 1-0 up is certainly not it, and maybe they can't relax until it was kind of 2 or 3. But yeah, a great way to start. It also quieted the crowd down immediately, didn't it? And I think when you do that in away games or any game, really.
I think you're right. Rick, it was a fast start, wasn't it? It was just it was a perfect start, wasn't it?
It was a perfect start. Of course it was. But I tell you one thing that I did notice that I was encouraged by straight away. It was the kickoff. The first pass was forward, from Maddison. Yeah. It wasn't a back and then to the left back and then up the side. The first pass was forward, which showed your intention, showed the boys' intention straight away. Let's get after it. Let's make it happen. Let's get on the front foot straight away. And also the boss kind of alluded to this type of tactic in one of these interviews, because he was saying there's been a few times this season where the first minute or two we've been in there and we've created great chances and let's start kind of getting the reward for all of our work. And thankfully today, I think, what was it, 37 seconds, something like that, first pass forward, and they made it happen. I thought it was fantastic play by Spence. Spence doesn't look for the short pass, really. He looks to drive that ball forward. He looks to try and make something happen all the time. And he tries to pressurize whoever he runs against. How many times we want our wingers to run against their left back or run against their right back and kind of put them under pressure? Spence always does that darting run, which puts defenders and wing backs, right backs, left backs under pressure. And he wasn't giving up that ball today. And he found, and it's not just the tenacity of his turn and dribble, but the pass, the weight of the pass to Maddison that just laid it on a plate for him. Maddison didn't have to break his stride. He didn't have to think. Exactly. It was perfectly in time and perfectly in rhythm. And I'm just so happy that it went in the back of the net, because how many times have we done something perfect and it not kind of we not get that goal or we not get that reward that we're after? So well done, boys.
Yeah, absolutely. Cole, it was great to see, for me personally, Jed Spence getting the start, but that quick turn and the way he bursted forward, it was just great to see. But
it's a player that I think, he's clearly someone who's been waiting for his chance, chomping at the bit. I think he's been really patient. We've touched on it in terms of him not being named in the UEFA squad, because I think he obviously would have been a real asset in that squad and he would have got more minutes. So he's kind of been the spare man. Ange touched on it in that interview, sort of saying we've got that cover at fullback. He's been playing Archie there. So he's been really, really patient. And I think this was the moment where he kind of knew this is not a brilliant side he's up against, and right from minute one he went for it and absolutely fantastic. And again, I remember seeing him for Forest and going, this is a really exciting player. We were really pleased, me and my son, when we signed him, to go, this is going to be a really, really good player for us. And we just haven't seen him. And we've all, we've had those players over the years, haven't we? Players who have been really young, promising players elsewhere. I mean, Sessegnon's the first one that comes to mind, albeit he had a lot of injuries, but players that you just go, oh, this player is going to be really something. And then it peters out and then off they go. And we never really feel like we've seen the best of him in a Spurs shirt. So I hope tonight's the beginning of that for Jed Spence. And then the comment that just flashed up around Porro. I mean, I don't know, but when Porro came on, and obviously then they switched sides when Jed went over to cover for Udogie after about half an hour, Porro, nearly his first touch on the ball, he seemed to be supercharged. Like, it almost gave, because we all know, and if we're in sport, like, if you've got someone breathing down your neck for your position, it's going to bring a little bit more out of you. And maybe Pedro Porro, who, sometimes he can have a good performance, sometimes it's not been so great of late. Jed Spence having a player who's an attacking fullback breathing down his neck, I think will benefit Porro. And I felt like I saw that in the first 2 minutes of Porro being on. So, it's amazing that we're talking about competition for positions where we've got 10 players out. But really, really thrilled to see Jed Spence have an impact so quickly. And it'll have done his confidence, I'm sure, the world of good, because, the rumours are he doesn't struggle for confidence, I suppose. That's the thing. But that's fine. That's what the top players don't. So, let's get him. Let's see more of him.
Yeah, well, 12 minutes or 11 minutes later, should I say, Tottenham's second goal was scored by Heung-min Son. Spence involved again. A quick ball to Maddison, who crosses in, took a slight-headed deflection off the defender, but Son knocks it in with his left foot. That's 13 goals in 17 starts, or 17 appearances for the Saints. Becky, does Son get unfair criticism for you? Because it showed today exactly what he can do, and I think it's just about protecting him. And thankfully he went off today and had a rest, because we're going to need him in this period, aren't we?
Yeah, I think people who know me and follow me know that Sonny's always been my favourite player. So, it feels unfair criticism to me. I just saw somebody tweet earlier that, yes, he was fantastic. He had a goal and 2 assists. He took that goal really well, kind of a first-time shot. The way he ran away to the corner as well showed how much it means to him. As you said earlier at the top of the show, he's now got 68 assists, which is the most for Tottenham. But he does, like Maddison has done recently, he does then have games where he's not as involved as he used to be. And thinking back to the end of the Conte kind of era, I remember saying on here that, Son was always receiving the ball with his back to goal, and that was just not the best, utilising Son in the best way. Son's always the best when he's running at players, and even within Ange's system, that isn't what he's required to do. So today you saw Spence running around him. He's normally got Udogie running around him. So he's waiting for that kind of overlap, and when they do those kind of interchanging passes. The times of him sort of cutting inside and doing a curling shot aren't there as much now, are they? It doesn't happen as often. So yeah, I must admit, I didn't celebrate overly the first goal, but I did celebrate the second goal, because I think it shows, form class. He is who he is. It's just I think sometimes because he's captain, they think that he's not as influential as he possibly should be. But when he's on it, he's like most of our team. When he's on it, he's world class. He's phenomenal. So yeah, it was great for him.
Yeah, Rick, it's funny, isn't it? Certain teams, I know from playing myself, there was just certain teams I used to play against where I thought, yeah, I'm gonna be at this today. I'm going to score today. and it's obviously the same at every level of football, isn't it? Because something about his Son and Southampton. Of course, he scored 4 against them the other season. I think Harry Kane assisted all 4. He must be licking his lips every time he comes into play in Southampton, mustn't he?
You know what? Like you said there, sometimes there are just those teams for certain players, and Southampton is definitely one for Sonny. You know, Sonny could have had a hat-trick today. You know, Sonny had a couple of chances in that first half where, you know, and I think he had one in the second half as well before he got taken off. But, yeah, he could have had an hat-trick today. Just unfortunate. But, you know, Sonny is, every time that you doubt Sonny comes back to prove everybody wrong. And I love Sonny to bits. You know, he is somebody that you can rely on. Of course, he's going to have a dip. Of course, there's going to be sometimes he's, you know, maybe like some people have said, age is catching up to him. I don't think so. I just think he's had a lot of games and he's trying to find his flow. And I think you'll see him find his flow this season again. And I think you'll see him in the second half of the season just take off again once he can kind of get his fitness up, you know. He has been one of those that we've relied on overly. He has been overly relied on for his country as well. So there's a lot of minutes in his legs that he has had, but he's a phenomenal player, and he loves Tottenham, and I love players that love Tottenham. You know, it's one of the reasons that I love Ginola. Ginola being in a side that wasn't really that great. There were great players in it, but it wasn't really that great. And you know, we was in a very bumpy time when Ginola was in that team, but he was somebody that loved playing for us, and he always had a smile, and he would come up with some trick or some twist or some outlandish goal and give us that moment of joy when, you know, qualifying for certain things or winning things at that stage wasn't really around. And Sonny's been that guy. You know, he's been with us throughout all of our kind of different stages of this journey. We've almost been there with him. We've almost reached the top with him, but then we've gone on this kind of crazy journey on the Titanic for a while, and now we're trying to kind of climb a new mountain, and Sonny's there with us again. And, you know, I love him to bits, man. I love him to bits. So whatever we've got to do to keep him fresh, keep him fit, keep him fighting, keep him scoring, keep him assisting, let's do. And hopefully he has a fantastic season with us.
Totally, Carl. There's a good point on screen. Son has set high standards. He's a joint third on assists in the league this season, but we have come to expect more. It's kind of true, isn't it? Because he sets the bar so high, Son, doesn't he? Yet you forget he's 32, and you know, it's hard, isn't it?
Well, that's it. I mean, you know, it goes without saying, he's a club legend. He's an iconic player in world football. He's been and continues to be an incredible ambassador for our football club. He loves Tottenham. So there's all of those things that, you know, when the day comes, and I hope it's not too soon, but when the day comes when he leaves the football club, he will be remembered for a long time. People will be talking about him for generations to come as one of Tottenham's greatest players. I think he's in that kind of echelons of the top 20 probably players who've turned out for us. I think he's getting towards that now with the goals, assists and contributions. It would be lovely to see him win a trophy before that time comes. I think he's also getting to that point, though, where, as you say, the ages are managing the minutes. I think he's always been one of those players where when he's hit like a little bit of a poor run, it can last for a few games, and then he'll hit a screamer and he just goes on a run. I think the difficulty now is at 32 and after a few injuries, that peak is obviously just getting that little bit further away. Once he hits that little bit of a lull, I think it's just that little bit harder to get into that top form. And we've all seen that with great players as they kind of diminish. You could argue to some extent it's happening with Harry Kane a little bit in to some extent. So I think we'll just have to manage his minutes in the next kind of 18 months, couple of years. That, you know, the assumption will be that he's going to maybe be here for this season, hopefully next season, maybe beyond. I think we've just got to kind of manage that a little bit. I don't think he's ever going to be a 90-minute, 38 game a season player for us, or 50 game a season in all competitions. So, I think he will be one of those players where on a game like today, he absolutely was fantastic in that first 45 minutes. We've taken him off, and we're gonna hopefully unleash him then on Thursday night. So I think that was really, really sensible. But absolutely love him, and you can see how much it hurts him more than most players. He really wears his heart on his sleeve when things aren't going well, because I think he really gets. And apart from Davis, I mean, he's probably just about the longest serving player anyway, isn't he? So he really understands with the clubs and the fans what it means to us when we lose and when we're on bad form. And I think he feels that frustration too if he can't impact a game. So great to see him do that. And he'll be back in the team on Thursday night, and hopefully high on confidence after a performance like that, because we're gonna need him for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it got even better for Tottenham just a couple of minutes later. Kulusevski scored a goal. Great ball from Maddison to Son. Son crossed to Solanke, who just misses it, and Kulu knocks it in. Becky, coming back to you. This was this signalled the Saints fans leaving already if they hadn't done even after the second goal. But this was a great ball across, wasn't it? By Maddison, wasn't it, to Sonny?
Yeah, and I think you could hear the Southampton fans booing the second goal. They definitely booed the third goal. I was. It was great to see Kulusevski score, and like I said earlier in the show, when he plays amazing, we do well. And like I said, it was such a shame for Bournemouth. He just didn't seem to be on it in Bournemouth. But I was disappointed for Solanke, really. You can see us when Kulusevski scores, and then he kind of runs around him. Solanke kind of looks to the sky. Because I think, particularly when you're there at live matches, you see how much Solanke does, kind of holding up play and, it kind of enabling teams to sort of track him and then free up space for other players. So I think sometimes when you watch it on TV, you don't notice that quite as much. So, yeah, I just, we win 5-0 and Solanke doesn't score, which is a shame. But, yeah, I think, like I said, Kulusevski, he said in the week, didn't he, he players have got to step up, and they did. And, and to be fair to Ange, he asked them to step up and they did. And I agree with what everyone's just said then. Players have got to show that consistently, and, minutes need managed of certain players. And we have got a lot of games. But I just think, we have to win something. I think Kulusevski will be like Romero. If we don't win something, he will be gone. He will go somewhere else, because he's too hungry for, and he's not going to settle. So I think that's why it's another reason his name is in the song. I think it rhymes too, but I think it's a kind of a say, that we want to keep players. We don't want to, buy these players for sort of 5, 6, 7 million and then sell them on for these big money. We want to actually keep these players and build them into something and build around them, build a team around them. But yeah, delighted for Kulusevski, but like I said, I was just disappointed it was Solanke really.
Rick, do you think Solanke not score? I mean, he's a centre forward. He's going to be gutted he didn't get on the score sheet today. I can tell you that for nothing. But are you concerned by Solanke's goal output, or do you think it's acceptable, or do you think he should be doing more? Are you happy with his general work rate and providing for the team that way?
I think it's a combination of things with Solanke. I think, obviously it's his first season with us. I think he's working out who's crossing him the ball, as well as those that are in midfield and on the wing are working out his runs. I think he's a very hard worker. I totally understand why Ange wanted him as his centre forward, because he is a very hard working centre forward. And he is very unselfish as well, in the sense that he can occupy defenders, he can hold up the ball, he can bring others into play. And, there was a period of time where I didn't understand the love that Liverpool fans had for Bobby Firmino, even though he always used to score against us. But I just felt that this guy, he just, when watching Match of the Day, this guy never scored, and maybe it's a similar thing. Maybe it's a similar thing in the sense that Solanke is doing that unselfish work for the team. And he's had a bit of a bumpy road in the sense of injuries and getting up to speed and stuff like that as well. And now with the squad the way it is, he pretty much has to play every game. So it's another one where you never really, especially in this period of time, without having the options that we do have, but are all injured, i.e. Richarlison, you can't really rotate and you can't really keep players in their, you know, their highest percentage of performance all the time. It's gonna, when you're running players left, right, and center, they're gonna be running at about 70% at a minimum, at a maximum sort of thing. You know, it's tough. So I think the boys have done well. I think Solanke has done well with the job that he's doing. I think there is goals in there. You look at that goal against Chelsea, which was a really good touch, a really good anticipation of where the ball was going to fall. I think it's in there. I think there are goals coming for him. It's just taking him a little bit longer. But at the same time, when you're winning 5-0, what can you say? You know, him doing the job that he did today helped with that 5-0. It created spaces for others. And luckily we put them away. His chances will come and he will bang a lot of goals in this team. It's just taking a little bit of time. So stick with him. Have faith in him. He's doing a great job at the moment, but I think more goals will definitely come.
Carl, this ball from Maddison over the top there for Sonny, we want to see him do that more consistently, don't we? Because it's no doubt, and somebody said in the comments earlier, that when Maddison plays well, we play well, and we're generally got a bloody good chance of winning the game. But he's not doing it enough, is he, Maddison? We want to see this all the time.
Yeah, and I mean, sometimes I said this watching it as well, that actually sometimes you can almost tell what kind of game James Maddison's going to have within 10 minutes. It almost comes with his body language. It was a fantastic ball over. Obviously, I think he's kind of playing in between. Sometimes he's playing this slightly deeper position. Sometimes then he's getting forward like he did for the goal. So whether that was just a little bit more license he had and a little bit more space to kind of impact the game, you know, if you remember when about the only complaint anyone could have ever had with Harry Kane was sometimes he'd drop deep because he'd be playing the kind of balls you wanted Harry Kane to be on the end of. And now we've got Maddison, just as Kane left, who, you know, Maddison is kind of finding some of those balls when he does drop deep and he has that ability. So I suppose the point there being, you know, that actually if maybe that was Maddison's role really, to actually then feed those attacking players. It's a fantastic ball over. Again, Sonny's straight down the wing and gets the ball in, and we get that little bit of luck. Obviously, there's that little bit of a scramble, and then it finally drops to us. How many times this season have we seen the ball not quite drop for us and get cleared away? So that really felt like, you know, we were absolutely cooking at that point. You know, we looked on fantastic form, and at that point you kind of thought, well, God, we actually started talking about, well, you know, we got 9 against Wigan once, you know, like you immediately start going, right, what's the target here when you scored 3 goals so early? But yeah, Maddison, again, he just seems to be another one of those players where I suppose all players are confidence players, but we seem to have a lot of them where actually sometimes when their heads drop, and they all drop at the same time, we have these quite poor performances. Maddison, you want to see him impose himself on a game, find those players. We've got quick pace down the wings. And just on that point, just to pick up everything that's said about Solanke, I think he's brilliant. I think his hold-up play is great. He's so neat and tidy. The amount of times he'll take it down on his chest and just knock something over behind him. Yeah, maybe a few more goals, but I think he's just his work rate is unbelievable. To watch how much he tracks back and wins the ball back. So, you know, let's not forget he's stepping into the shoes of one of our probably our greatest ever player. So I really like Solanke, and I think he's got a good few years ahead of him and many goals in a Spurs shirt.
Yeah, he's. I was really excited when we got Maddison when we brought him in, and he's obviously started off on fire. And people are saying since that injury last November, he hasn't been quite the player. There's been glimpses of it, hasn't there? But he hasn't quite hit the heights in every game. And of course, that's what we need. We need him to be purring every game and perform every game. And I do think our midfield does look a lot better when he's on it. But when he's not on it, it shows because we know what a player he can be. For people that are asking where Chris is, so sorry, you're stuck with me tonight. Chris is driving home because it's a bit of a slap back from Southampton on a Sunday evening when we've got work in the morning. So that's where Chris is. So you're lumbered with me. Becky, another goal, fourth goal. Pat Sarr, 25 minutes, a great run by Doggy, pass to Son, who plays it square to Sarr. He absolutely jinked through the defence, didn't he?
Yeah, he shows his strength. When me and Jack are watching from the South Stand at home games, we often say that you can see Sarr because he's got like such long legs and he's very good at kind of reaching, and the ball just seemed to stick to his feet, and then nicely slotted it in. Again, in that shot there, you can see Solanke. He did well to get out of the way. There was a few times today where Solanke, gets himself out of the way. If you compare that to Richarlison, Richarlison probably would have fell over or banged into players. So Solanke's kind of got a very good awareness of where everybody else is as well. So he did well to kind of keep himself out of the way for Sarr to kind of slot it in. And they put over commentary that it was his first goal of the season, but I think he's on his third or fourth in the Europa League, isn't he? So it's not his first goal for Spurs this season. It just happens to be his first one. Interestingly, I think it was Sonny's first goal away from home this season as well, which shows how poor we have been away from home. I know we had the United and the City games, but overall, the away games have not been as good as the home games. So like I said, I'm delighted for Sarr. I think he's just, we could have a whole show on the discussion of how our midfield would be and who our midfield would be, and that's not even including Basuma and Bentancur. So I think reading the comments while people were chatting then, saying about Maddison plays well when he's got Sarr with him, but also I think when he's got Kulusevski on the wing. I think if you think about Kulusevski plays in the middle of Maddison, they're always kind of getting in each other's way. So it's a good thing to have, and it isn't necessarily always due to injuries. But I think like you said, if Son is streaky, then Maddison is, and I remember having him on my fantasy team last year, and he just used to be injured, for a fair chunk of the season, and I think he's getting past that. But it's just you want to see. I think I've read in the comments someone saying about his body language. I think you can tell almost from how when the game starts what sort of day Maddison is going to have. And like I said earlier in the show, I remember the City game. He had 2 assists there and 2 goals, and he played really well. And then it's been very kind of hit and miss since. And then he had the free kick, didn't it, at the end of whichever game that was. It's just been a bit up and down, and hopefully again he kicks on, and he wants to get back in the England team. And I think when we've got everyone playing really well, we are untouchable, and it's just you want to see that more often. And the league is so tight this season that any team's going to go on a run, they are going to move up very quickly. But equally, 2 or 3 games we have a poor run, as we've seen, you can then fall down the league as well. But it's just trying to kind of keep that consistency across all tournaments. I think, I said last week, this week is a big week. Obviously we were expected to beat Southampton, we ended up doing so. But then we've got, a quarter final on Thursday. And if that doesn't go very well, then it's this sort of Tamworth game comes around quite quickly, and you would assume we would get through that. Hopefully, there's no replay certainly, which will help. But it's sort of, it's that age-old thing that we want to get to February still with a chance of something, because often we're not involved much by February, and the season just sort of fizzles out, and we are just trying to get top 4. So hopefully it happens well on Thursday, and we kind of go from there. I'm going to have to go as well, I think.
Okay, Becky. Well, lovely of you to join us. And thanks for coming on, and we'll see you again very soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Bye.
Thanks, Becky. Bye. Rick, this comment here, Sarr and Bergvall are better than Basuma and Bentancur. That's a bold statement, isn't it? Would you agree with that, or what's your thought?
I think that we need to see more before we make a judgment. I think today they were fantastic. Bergvall is a young 18-year-old. You can see that he doesn't have the body weight on him. You can see that he's still got a way to grow. But when he does have a little bit of weight on him, so that he can hold the ball up, so that he can ride a challenge in the Premier League, I think he's going to be a dynamite player. It's just that with him being young, we're going to have to roll with him. We're going to have to go on the roller coaster with him. You look at someone who was lauding Kobe Mainu last year and got into the England squad. And, you know, this year he started, especially under Ten Hag, it wasn't as impactful, right? But that's what you're going to get with young players. Now, that doesn't mean that Kobbie Mainoo is a bad player. He'll return to form, and I think that having his dip will help him continue along his journey. And I think we're going to have to go through periods of times with Bergvall, with Gray, with the young ones that we've got there. We're going to have to go through periods of time with that. And we're going to have to recognize those and, yes, critique them for a bad game or whatever the case may be, but at the same time support them because they've got to go through that. You know, not until they're like 22, 23 will they kind of really, really be judged in that sense. Hopefully they get to that point in a Spurs shirt. But yeah, I think we need to witness a bit more before we can say that they're better than them. Although I really enjoyed that partnership today. Let me just jump on Maddison as well for a moment. You know what? I felt today that he had a bit of like effort in him, like a bit of kind of give me the ball, I'll deal with it, I'll show you. You know, he had a lot of energy in him to kind of take the game by the scruff of the neck and make things happen. And I think we need to continue that. I think for Maddison, he needs to continue that train of thought and continue that attitude. I mean, I don't know whether you guys saw his interview on the pitch after the game, but he spoke very well and with a serious tone as well. He spoke about the performance. He spoke about, you know, what that gives them. He spoke about some of the tough times that they've gone through, but they're still together. And they're still behind the manager, and they're still on you know, loving the way that they're playing, sort of thing. And they know that they deserve more. But I felt he spoke very, very well on the pitch as well after the game. So, you know, I think that's what's been missing in Maddison the last couple of weeks. I say last couple of weeks. We've had flashes of Maddison, but I think sometimes he can go into a sulk type of energy. You know, why didn't I start? I should have started. Oh, why? It's a bit stroppy almost. But today it was almost like, I'll show you, you know? And that's what he needs to continue going forward so that we see the best of him and so that he sees the best for himself.
Yeah, well, just going back to Sarr's goal, that's obviously, as we hinted at earlier and mentioned earlier, that's the most assists for Spurs, 57. I think it's 57. So I think I put on the telly 58. It was tied with Darren Anderton. So I have to check on that. But certainly he's up there and he's going to break that record if he hasn't done so already. Absolutely phenomenal by Sonny. You don't realise. I mean, when you say it, 57, just a number. But when you think about it, absolutely phenomenal. I love the guy. I really do. And I'll make no apologies for saying that. 28 minutes of Doggy came off, Porro on. As Ange said there, he felt something in his quad, so it's probably right because we're a bit light at left back and we do need a Doggy. And hopefully he's going to be fit for the game on Thursday. Fingers crossed. Yeah, Enrique's saying he's 68. Yeah, it was 67, I think. Anderson 67, I think. So yeah, he's up there with in good company, Sonny. That's for sure. 34 minutes, Maddison Son shot saved. That wasn't a particularly strong finish from Sonny, but he's getting in the right positions again. 40th minute, Armstrong chance for the Saints, but knocked it wide. 43 minutes, Son chance again, saved by McCarthy. 45 minutes, a great move by Spurs that ends in a weak shot by Son again. As you said, one of us said he could have had a hat-trick today. He could have had 4 today. So, yeah, when the chances come like that, you know Son's going to bury at least one of them, which was great. 49th minute, 45 plus 4. Maddison scored an absolutely fantastic goal. Great ball from somebody outside of his right foot. Great skill by Maddison to cut back and smash it into the roof of the net. The first time Spurs score 5 in the first half of the Premier League. Carl, this was another brilliant Tottenham move, wasn't it?
Well, what a shot that is for the image on screen for anyone watching rather than listening of Sonny just bending that ball around. Just the bend on it, the weight of it was absolutely fantastic. You're seeing Madders make that run. I mean, even just observing the shape of everything there, you know, we're massively outnumbered, but Southampton have really, you know, they've got numbers back and we're still just passing round them. But that's a bit of magic there from the outside of Son's boot. And then Madders cutting back, you know, Solanke's got this opportunity. He's in the middle, but actually there's three men to get round. So, I mean, it's one of those ones where if you'd have blasted it over or put it in the side netting, then we'd have all been going, you know, how greedy. But actually, when you look at these stills that are on screen right now, it's almost the only way he could have scored, and it was just absolute magic just to sell that dummy and then put it in the top corner. There's a great shot, I think it was on the Spurs official site, on the Spurs official accounts, where you can just see Solanke's smile because he's kind of can see that it's going in just as kind of Madders is on the floor. So it's absolutely fantastic. I mean, just taking it back a little bit as well for the Sarr. He was playing like prime Yaya Toure at one point today, pinging balls around. He was kind of like winding through defence. And after the fourth, all the Southampton players went to have a chat with Russell Martin, probably for his leaving drinks, I imagine, to get those arranged. So he was basically that was a low blow, but I don't know Russell Martin personally, so but we basically, me and Jacob discussed whether Southampton were about to rage quit. Like my wife, who's only got a passing interest in when Spurs are on the telly, was kind of watching her programme. She's going, has a team ever like gone in at half time and like not come out for the second half? We're like, well, at least he's asking that about Southampton and not Spurs. Like, you know, it's gone badly. Yeah. There's been enough times when we've gone in at half time. So yeah, to score 5 goals in the first half for the first time, it feels an odd statistic that, because I suppose against Wigan we scored 8, and that was in the second half. But you know, it feels, I don't know. Obviously, it hasn't happened, so I can't remember it. But I feel like there should have been a moment where we had scored 5. But yeah, amazing to go in at half time 5-0 up, and even as Spurs fans, with everything that's happened this season, you go, well, no, actually, I think this one might be safe, because even at 3-0 up at Man City away, no one was going. There was nobody was singing any. People were singing "Sacked in the Morning," and people going, "It's too early." So at 5-0 at Southampton, you kind of go, right, well, I think this one might be in the bag. So what a goal though from Madders, and again, just quality players imposing themselves on a game. If we can allow ourselves to be negative just for a moment, this is what we need to see against Man United on Thursday night. This is what we need to see against Liverpool on Sunday. We need to see that same confidence. We need to see that same not being a flat track bully. And as we know, beating the teams at the bottom's by no means easy for us this season. We've done better against the teams at the top. But, you know, imposing ourselves on a game, those quality players basically coming in and blowing Southampton away in that first half, and that goal, probably the pick of the one, isn't it? That's going to be a goal of the month contender, and maybe even towards goal of the season, just for that ball and that finish. So we were in absolute dreamland at 5-0 at half time. Loved it.
Absolutely. Well, Ricky hinted on James Maddison speaking after the game. Let's hear from Madders.
It's safe to say that was a great night for Tottenham.
Yeah, no, a great night. And it was an important night for us as well, you know. You can see in the Premier League at the minute, there's teams, big teams, all throughout the league struggling to get results and going through like rough patches. We've been on a little bit of one ourselves. So like, make no mistake about how important that victory and that performance is. Sometimes you have to show fight. People will say about Southampton not being able to pick up results this year and being down there, but that was a big night for us.
36 seconds that opening goal came. Tottenham's quickest goal in the Premier League since 2018. But that pass from Jed Spence, he's had to wait for his opportunity as well, hasn't he?
He has, and he's been patient, and he's a great lad. I said to him before, Jed's quite a laid-back character anyway, so I don't think he needed too much of a pep talk. I just told him before, go and do what you do, and I can't remember too much. I think he got the ball and managed to wriggle away like he does, which he's very good at. And that's a run that I've been working on for years, you know, that left pocket run in behind the defence. And to be fair to Jed, it was a brilliant weighted pass, perfect, and I just had to finish it off. So big credit to Jed for that one.
And then the confidence, 2, 3 and 4 just came.
Well, we know we can do that as a team, you know. We can blow any team away in this league, not just teams like Southampton. We went to Man City and did it. Obviously, it's up to us to show that on a more consistent, regular basis. But that was a proper performance today, and I'm really proud of the lads because, like I said, I reiterate that what we needed a big night tonight, and showed grit and determination in Glasgow on Thursday night because it's not an easy place to go. Rapid turnaround. We're really short on numbers in terms of the squad, so proud of the boys. Yeah.
Well, congratulations. You are the player of the match as well, so take that home with you.
Cheers.
Rick, was Maddison the man of the match for you today?
I think he was definitely one of them. He had a phenomenal performance today. Like I say, he definitely had that attitude of, let me take this game by the scruff of the neck. And, you know, both goals were fantastic goals. That second goal, like you guys were just talking about there, you know, if you look at the angle of it and even the cheekiness to kind of score from that, you know, go for it. You know, it was just like fantastic, bro. So maybe let's say yes. He was deserving of that man of the match, and I want to see more of that from Maddison from this point on.
I think that's right, isn't it? It's fair enough, James Maddison turning up in games like this. We want to see more of it. We want to see it in every game, don't we? We want to see him putting in those performances every game that he plays. Second half, as you said, Carl, it's been about an hour talking about the first half, and then the second half, not much happened really. But for me, let's just go for it. Johnson on for Son, which was sensible. Resting Sonny, we need him for Thursday, as we said. And I've put here Spurs just managing the game now in the second half, which is professional and it's sensible way to approach the game, isn't it, Carl? It's what the big sides do, isn't it?
It is, and you know, again, like we've talked on this show so many times where we go ahead in games and then don't shut them down, or we, you know, this kind of, I suppose, this kind of gung ho approach. And has Ange got the, you know, will he kind of take a match and control a match? And almost, I think Gary Neville was saying it against Chelsea after the Chelsea game, actually, just kind of saying, you know, you can't ignore the state of the match. If you're 2-0 up, that's different to being 3-2 down. And sometimes we play the same, or the criticism at least is we play the same. So yeah, we did manage the game. You know, I'm sure we'd have all loved to see us push on and get more goals. I think we were trying. There were a few chances. I don't think the first shot on target comes till way late on in the second half. I suppose there's some of those moments where we nearly let Southampton in. I think it would have been disappointing to lose the clean sheet today. I think we needed a clean sheet. We needed to kind of show that we can shut that game down. They didn't have a lot of threat, but they did come very close. There was obviously one offside, wasn't there, that they scored, but it was offside. So, yeah, and I think we managed the game out. We saw it out. It's why I was so surprised about the possession statistics. I'd have thought we'd have had 65, 70% possession. It felt like that over 90 minutes, and it was a little bit closer than that. I think it was 58 or something. So we did dominate possession, but yeah, we saw the game out. We did what we needed to do. Would have been nice to get a couple more, of course it would, but you no complaints. When you go and blow a team away like that in the first half, it's very difficult to have complaints about managing that out in the second half. So yeah, come away with a clean sheet. Can't argue with that. So and rested, was able to rest players ahead of a really big week. So yeah, really pleased with that. I know Becky was saying earlier around getting Solanke off a little bit earlier. I do agree. I think he could have come off maybe another 10, 15 minutes earlier, knowing how many games he's going to have to play. But I do think they were just hoping he might just be able to nick one, because I think, you know, strikers, confidence, goals, you know, that's what he needs. But yeah, no complaints. Loved it.
Yeah, absolutely. Comment on the screen now. We were street smart second half, not losing the ball needlessly. Absolutely, and just conserving energy, I think. I mean, Southampton did have a bit more of the ball and a bit more of the play in the second half. 66 minutes, Cole Walker-Peters hits the side net in 70th minute. Wood volleys wide for Southampton. On the 77th minute, more subs for Tottenham. Werner on for Maddison, and Dorrington, of course, comes on for his debut, which is absolutely fantastic to see Dorrington finally get a run out. He replaced Jed Spence. 79th minute, Dibbling it shot wide. 82nd minute, Lancashire came on for Solanke. As you said, Carl was probably hoping that he'd just get a goal to boost his confidence, but it didn't happen. And you were commenting on when our first shot came in that second half. It was actually in the 87th minute from Sarr. So, yeah, we weren't really pushing forward much at all. 90th minute, great cross from Werner, and Johnson hit over. It was actually offside in the end. And an easy win and an easy game finally for Ange. Second win in 9 games for Tottenham. Rick, I know you haven't been here for the last few weeks. Just ask you your opinion on Ange's comments on Timo Werner in the week. What did you make of that? Are you a fan of that? Do you agree with what he said?
You know what? Yeah, I haven't been here for a couple of weeks, and I've built up a whole kind of thing with Ange. So you might have to like strap in for a minute, grab your vape. Do you know what I mean? You know, Carl, you might have to grab a cup of tea or something, because yeah, I might have to go in for.
Go for it, Vic. Go for it, man.
Okay, look, you know, Ange's had a lot of criticism. Okay, and I think that every time he speaks or does anything, whether we win or we lose right now, I think there are some out there that are looking for the negative, that are looking for the dark, that are looking for something to hound him out for some reason or another. Now, we are Tottenham, okay, and we have been here way longer than Ange Postecoglou's been here, and there are inherent problems at Tottenham. Problems that we've had for many a season under many a manager. I remember, you know, Mourinho's Tottenham when we was 2-0 up against West Ham, and we tried to consolidate, we tried to hold the ball, and we tried to make sure that we won that game, and we lost that game 3-2. You know, I remember the Southampton game with Conte. You know, the last time that we had that Southampton game with that famous rant afterwards, where we collapsed after a Man City win. So these things have been inherent in us for a long time. There's been many a time that we know as fans that this club has been cursed, or this side has been cursed. Sometimes we won't get the rub of the green. Sometimes every time we have something good, it goes away from us. Now that sometimes that's an injury, you know, to our most favorite player or our most important player. Sometimes it's a kind of plague of injuries that just decimate our side. Like last year, you know, Mickey and Romero and Maddison, and then we had the red cards of Udogie and stuff. You know, we had a really tough period, and right now we're having a really tough period too. But we know this, right? We know this. We've had these times many a time, and we know this, and we know. You know, even with the board and the transfers, we've made some very good transfers recently. But even like someone like Paratici comes in and he makes some great signings, and he has a vision, and then he gets done for his court case, and I can't remember what it was about, but you know, he gets done and he gets suspended and he goes. You know, we deal with things without crying as well. I love this manager, the fact that he doesn't cry about anything. You know, he's had to mention it a few times because it's like people forget about the injuries and stuff like that. But when you lose your 2 centre halves and your goalkeeper, that's really tough. When you've got a midfielder that you can't play because he's suspended because of something that he said during the summer, you know, and rightfully so, punishment for the crime and all of that. But you look at Chelsea and Enzo Fernandez and you kind of go, well, what's happening there? How is it only Tottenham? But all right, we'll take it on the chin and we'll keep on going. We know how many times, not just this squad, not just this manager, but many managers and many seasons, how many times have we as fans known where the gap is, known the positions that we have needed to fill in the summer and have not done it? And have got in a loan like Longley, or have got in somebody that is below quality that we're trying to get something out of. We've done this many a time. If anybody asked about this squad going into this season, we would have all said striker. We would have all said a winger, you know, dynamite winger. Ange wanted some type of dynamic midfielder. He was after Conor Gallagher. We would have said a 6 and a left centre back stroke left back for cover over there. We knew where the gaps were. going into it. Now, if anybody looks at that squad going into it, now on the face of it, on the first 11, can that first 11 challenge? Absolutely. Of course it can challenge. But when you look at the squad, if we have what happens, what has actually happened now, conspired now, where we've got like 10 players out, is that squad good enough to kind of really go and challenge right now? We don't know. The majority would say no, but right now we don't know because there's a lot of unknowns in these 18-year-olds and these young ones that we've brought in. You know, they are going to have dips. They are going to have moments. So we know this. We know all of it. We know that the club is cursed. We know that there's things that have just not gone our way for many and many a season. You know, we know the Sissoko handball in the Champions League final. We know these things. But this manager has come in and he's seen all of those things. And you have to remember as well, when he came in, before he came in, Arne Slot, we was after Arne Slot, and Arne Slot decided to reject us and stay at Feyenoord for another year, and then he's ended up at Liverpool. When we've had direction and a clear vision, when we've had Frank Arneson as director of football or Paul Mitchell under Poch, you know, for reasons that we can only guess about, but mostly hinting at promises wasn't kept. Those players, those people in those positions have had to leave those positions. Paul Barber, for instance, who's doing a great job at Brighton. These people that were in high positions, that were football people, that were making good choices at the time, had to leave for one reason or another that we can only speculate about. But there has to be a reason, right? So we are now here under this manager, and like I say, before he turned up, Arne Slot didn't want to be there. We went after a couple of managers that didn't want anything to do with Tottenham, because you know why? Two serial managers, two serial winners in world football turned up at Tottenham, and the only place that they did not win was Tottenham Hotspur. And they cussed at our club. They tore it to shreds, and they told us about ourselves. They told the board about themselves, and many of what the things that they said were right, but it was not nice to hear. We had a phenomenal coach in Pochettino who said, this stadium's fantastic, but we need proper furniture. You can't buy IKEA furniture. We need to go to Harrods. If our house looks like Harrods, we need to shop at Harrods, basically. And certain things wasn't done. We know this. We know what type of Titanic team that we was like before Ange turned up. We had no direction. We were on a dip. We played some terrible football many a time. You know, like we went through that Nuno period, and well done to Nuno for doing well right now. But for us, boy, you know, he had some bright moments, but a lot of it was terrible. And you could tell under his management that it was not going to run. It was not going to work at Tottenham Hotspur. So we've had very many variations of manager. And we needed somebody like Ange who was not afraid to look at the curse in the face, that was not afraid to look at the butt of the joke of us being #Spursy in the face, to look at the fact that we haven't won in so long and we're desperate to win and take up that mantle in the face, to look at the board and the way that we buy our players. And even though that we won't get our first choice targets, we'll get the second choice and the third choice, but he's happy to kind of go, all right, and cool, I'll take that as long as they've got the right character and the right profile that can do what I ask them to do. All right, cool, I'll take that. Okay, fine, right? Well, I'll work your way and I'll still get it done. So this guy's taken up this mantle. And you know what, in the hints and in the small flashes of greatness that we've seen, what this Tottenham side can bring, I see the long run. I see the end game. And I see that this guy needs more sympathy, more empathy, and more understanding from us, the fan base, who have been here for 25, 35, 45, 55 years and seen what is going on. That has been here under the Enoch reign and has been desperate for some type of glory, and has been desperate for us to move amongst the big boys and to be contenders and to, you know, and so that we can walk on the street with our chest puffed out. And this guy has come in and he's gone, you know what, it's all right, I'll take it. Let's go. And you can see it. You can see it when it clicks. Oh my gosh, it's fantastic. You can see it when we've got our first 11 out there. Oh my gosh, it's fantastic. You can see it when we've got our first 11 out there and he can use impact subs, because our subs bench is fully fit and ready to go, and all of those are angry that they haven't started in the first 11, but they're ready to come on and make an impact. You know, we haven't been able to do that. He hasn't been able to utilize a full fit squad for I don't know how long. You know, like I don't know how many games he's had where he's had a fully strength squad to choose from. It's been a very rare occasion. So Ange's system also relies on energy, and it also relies on very hard work and hard concentration. And with that, you need rotations, and you need those 5 subs to come in, whether that's at fullback or at winger or something in midfield. You need that, because at some point, some of these players are going to start flagging. You need those impact subs. We haven't been able to do that either. So as a fan base, as the fact that we know this as Tottenham, and yes, it's frustrating, but Ange has not been carrying this bag for 20 years. He's been carrying it for a year and a half, for a season and a half right now. There's enough in the foundations, there's enough in the seed, there's enough in the green shoots to say that once this flower grows, it's going to be beautiful. But you got to stick with it, because going around in circles and going after another manager and sacking one, you know, and being on the edge of a loss and being on the super high of a win and waiting for this guy to get sacked is not going to wait. He's not going to be the way that we're going to have success. We're not going to get Pochettino back right now. He's in a job, USA job, and he's going to be there for a while. And I don't know what would happen if he did ever come back, even though I love him to bits. The next manager that I would potentially want would be Xabi Alonso. But you know what? Xabi Alonso plays exactly the same way as Ange Postecoglou and had an unbeaten season last year. You know, he's going to come into Tottenham and he would have the exact same problems as Ange would have. And he would have a bumpy road ahead of him as well. So right now, Ange, not that he asked for it, and this is another reason why I love him as well. Not that he asked for it, and he don't. But Ange needs our sympathy. He needs our empathy. He needs our understanding. He needs our support as well as those boys need our support while they're going through a difficult time. Every time you have an argument with your missus, you're not looking to break up and pack your bag and leave and make it happen. If you love the one that you're with, you work through troubled times. You go through a storm. You might be mad and sit at the end of the sofa and she can sit upstairs, but you know what? Next day, you'll make a coffee and go, good morning, sweetheart. Do you know what I mean? And try and get through those bad times. I love my club. Inside out, upside down. I love them to bits. I love those players that go and put the shirt on and try and make it happen for us every single game. And you know what? Ange is the man that I believe has got the vision, has got the plan, and has got the direction, and has got the will to take up the madhouse that is Tottenham Hotspur and turn it into glory. But we're going to have to go through it. We're going to have to go through it. So Tottenham fans, we know where the problems lie, Tottenham fans. If anybody knows, we know. You know out there. Some of you have gone to protest for loads of different things. Some of you have come on the podcast and you've let it all out. Do you know what I mean? We know what the problems are that have been there for years and years and years and years and years. This guy is trying to change something. This guy is trying to turn it around, and he needs our support going through these tough times right now. Because to go for somebody else, it's just going to be rinse and repeat. And those that need pressure being put on them so that things can change, like buying Jack Grealish when we should buy him, like getting Bruno Fernandes when we should have got him, like getting Luis Diaz when we should have got him, like getting Diaz, the centre-back at Man City, when we should have got him. There's many. We could go through it. Some have worked out for us. Some have not. You know, we know what we are. We know where we're at. You know, we haven't won titles year in, year out. Nobody is telling Pep Guardiola to change his way. Nobody's calling for his head right now. Yes, he's got much credit in the bank, but he has a style. He has a philosophy. The same with Amorim right now. Nobody's going to tell him to change from a back three for a long, long time. They're going to actually praise him for sticking to his guns. So we've got to love our manager because he sticks to his guns. We're going out there to fight regardless. We're going out there to go for glory regardless. And you can't sit back in your heels and park a bus and expect to get glory all the bloody well time. You can't. And he won't. So trust him. Some of this scintillating football, some of this champagne football, some of this beautiful winning football as well is coming, and it is there. But we've got to ride this roller coaster with him, and we've got to back him, and we've got to see what his vision is, because in the long run, it could be phenomenal. All right, I'm done.
That's
Rick.
that's
Sorry,
remarkable.
Craig. Rick, can I just check? Are you Ange in or Ange out? I wasn't sure. I like.
do you know what that
day, man. Do you know, that was
Me
the
too.
Last, bro, that was the last couple of weeks. It was building up, and I hadn't been on the pod in a while. And I even texted Chris. I was like, bro, I'm gonna need 10 minutes today. Let me tell you. Oh man.
That reminded me. So what you're saying, just to summarize Ricky's monologue there, which was absolutely fantastic. It does remind me a little bit when you're saying patience there. It does remind me a bit. One of my favourite films is the Rocky franchise, and there's a line in Rocky 4 where Rocky's trainer Tony Duke says to him when he's just about to fight Ivan Drago, he says, "I know you're going to have to go through hell, worse than any nightmare you ever dreamed, but in the end, I know you're going to be the one standing." And that's sometimes what it feels like being a Tottenham fan, doesn't it? So I hope we are the one standing if we stick with this process, because I can't go through another rebuild. No way. So
No,
I'm still Ange. No, I can't do it. Anyway, look, we've been on an hour and a half. So we're going to go straight into the Manchester United game, and next game up. I'm not going to talk about Liverpool because let's take one game at a time here. So, Carl, just very quickly, Manchester United up next in the Carabao Cup quarter-final on Thursday at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. They obviously had a great win today against City. Probably undeserved. I didn't see the whole game, but obviously coming back to win at City. City are in absolute turmoil, we know, but they got a great result. How do you see it going? Will Jed Spence start again, do you think? Who else comes in? And let's have your score prediction.
Well, I'll be in the South Stand for that one, making the trip down from Derbyshire with my son. And having been to the Man City game, I'd said after the Man City game I wouldn't do any more of these midweek nights because it is so long back home, and I was like, I've got to be there for Man United. So we're going to be there. Hopefully, we'll make it to the ground in time for a quick pint. I'm feeling confident. I did watch the Man United game. I do think that they are a little bit like us at the moment in terms of they've got a split personality. They've obviously got a brand new manager come in, and he is and there's some amazing comments coming up on screen for anyone listening if I just sound remotely distracted. They're just Ricky Norwood's football philosophy out in all good bookstores in the new year. So I feel confident. I think they kind of dug in a bit really against Man City today. Man City were a little bit poor, and then the goals. I mean, their winning goal against Man City today, the defending from City was absolute schoolboy stuff. My lad plays under 16s, and we were watching it, just saying, how on earth has that gone through just a ball over? So I think that they haven't found their feet yet. They don't fully know what their best team is. Rashford wasn't even in the squad today. He could be a decent loan signing, by the way, for 6 months in January. But I digress. So I think I feel confident because I think what is going to happen is we are going to make it a cauldron. It is going to be a proper cup night under the floodlights at the Lane. And I think we are going to set off at them like a house on fire. Obviously, it's going to be a very, very different game to what we've played today. And we are probably still going to be largely with the same back line. I think it would be I think it would be a little bit of a slap in the face for Jed Spence to play as well as he's played today and then go back onto the sub-Spence. So I do think there's a really good chance, actually, that Jed Spence will start. I wonder if he'd start him on the left, if there's any doubt about Udogie. So that could be a way around it, where maybe he has Porro on the right and Jed on the left and rests Udogie. But I hope Jed Spence starts. And I think you wouldn't really want to change too much of this team that's played today. I think we want to be starting with largely the same team, as I say, apart from any potential injuries. So I feel confident, and I think it's going to be a bit nip and tuck. I think we can win 2-1. And then I've got an awful feeling we'll have the Woolwich over 2 legs in the semi-finals. But, let's not count our chickens just yet. But I think we're going to win. And I think the fans are going to be a huge part of that. The Man City game, it was really, really, a ferocious atmosphere. I know that because I got into my seat 5 minutes after the kickoff because of all the traffic. And a fellow was in my seat in the South Stand. And I said, I think this is my seat, mate. He said, no. He says, no, this is my seat. I'm here every week. I'd love it if he's listening, by the way. He was a lovely guy. He goes, no, this is my seat, mate. I'm here every week. So, you think I'm not normally in the seat. I'll check my ticket, make sure. No, mate, I'm in this seat. His mate across the aisle goes, mate, you're in the wrong one. To him, he was on the one behind. He's going, I'm so sorry, mate. He goes behind. I hear the crowd go up, turn around. Timo Werner's through on goal, puts it in the top corner. And the same guy in the limbs managed to poke my contact lens clean out of my left eye. I wasn't watching in widescreen for the match. I was watching out of camera 1. And all I can say is when Timo Werner scores, I nearly go blind. There's something biblical about that, I think. And so I'm just hoping I'm going to be in a similar situation. But I think I'm in similar seats in the South Stand. So that was my experience of Man City. I hope it's going to be less stressful when I go down for Man United on Thursday from Derbyshire. I think we're going to win 2-1. And I think we're going to do the Woolwich in the second leg at the Lane in the semi-finals.
I'd take that, certainly. I'm not copying. I had in my head 2-1 Tottenham as well. So I'd take that any day of the week just to get through. I think it's an important game. I think it's the biggest game of the season so far, actually. And it was good to get a win today to boost the confidence. Rick, how do you see this game going Thursday?
Oh, for me, boys. Oh, mate. You know what? It's Man United, new manager, new system. They're still finding their feet. But it's going to be really important for them too. So, I think they're going to come with it. I think it's going to be a different game to the one where we tore them to pieces under Ten Hag. But I think we're going to win. I never backed my team to lose, ever. But I do think we're going to win. I think that today's win came at a great time. You also got to remember that we pretty much had a makeshift, back four going on apart from Udogie. We've got our second keeper in there who's done really well. Big phrase. We've had Dragusin and Gray as a centre-back partnership. And we've had a start for Spence. And they done really well today. Even in holding the line, So you can see that what they're doing in training across the board. Especially when you've got debutants coming on and still being able to run the system like that, So, I see it being a tougher game than the last one, but I think that will to win is within us. And I think that, that fire is in Ange, and I think that the fire is in the boys. And if you saw the steel in Maddison's eyes in that interview just then, if you're watching on YouTube, I'm really hoping that that's that fire inside of him as well that is ready for what's to come against Man United. So I see us coming out 3-1 victors. I'm going to go 3-1, gents.
3-1. Well, I'll take that, Rick, as well, obviously. Look, we're there. We got to the end of the podcast, even through Ricky's brilliant monologue. Absolutely fantastic. Before you go,
do you know what, Craig? I didn't even answer the damn question. Do I agree with what Werner? Do I agree with what he done with Werner? I'll just say real quickly. I'll tell you why I do. I understand the whole out in public thing, but we all ask for leaders, right? We all ask for leaders, and we've all been saying we need more leaders on that field, and you can't hold a leader's hand. You've got to demand leadership from them. You've got to demand fight from them and see who steps up. So the fact that he done it that way round in the press conference, I'm not against it. In fact, I think it worked, and I think it was almost like a throwback to the Cloughy era. Do you know what I mean? Who, when asked a question about a player, he told the truth. So he told the truth, and he held an example up, not just for like Werner, but for all of the senior players in that squad, and to show the younger ones where our standard is, where our line is. So I'm with Ange and Jim.
Engine, absolutely. Well, look, just when you get off the stream tonight, when you before you go to bed, do us a favour and vote for us in the Sports Car Podcast Awards. We're in the category for Best Team Podcast. The link is at the top of this video and all over Chris's socials. And also, Carl is in that as well. Carl, if you want to give it another quick plug and say your goodbyes to everybody and tell everybody where they can find you.
Absolutely, yes, thank you. So I'm in Best Sports Comedy Podcast, so a different category to the Chris Cowlin Super Show. That it's a pleasure to be part of, as always, with you guys chatting Spurs, especially after a win. So you can vote for Chris and vote for me in separate categories. When Football Began Again is the name of my podcast, and please come over and see me over there at some point as well. I do also have a book about Spurs available on Amazon called Be in That Number. It's all about our supporters clubs around the world. It tells the story of the 18-19 season when we got to the Champions League final. So you can still just about get it on Amazon in most places worldwide, and it makes a nice little stocking filler for the Spurs fan in your life. So Be in That Number, it's £10 in the UK and a similar price elsewhere. So Be in That Number, and When Football Began Again, I think that's all my plugging done. Carl Jones Comedy as well, if you want to see me on the comedy circuit somewhere. But pleasure to be on with you guys as always, and yeah, always great to chat about a win.
Carl,
Thanks,
if I
Carl.
buy the book, will I get it before Christmas?
It will arrive before Christmas, Ricky, and I will personally deliver it.
On Amazon, right? I can get that in
little known independent bookseller Amazon.com does have it available, and they'll deliver that for free. Not yet. We're 5 years in. I've not started recording yet. So someone said I had a voice for radio. I don't know. They didn't mention my face, although I did get a Mick Hucknall comment early doors. I've just gone over that. There's always at least one Mick Hucknall in the comments.
There is, isn't there?
Yeah. So yeah, voice for radio, face for Simply Red. That's me.
Lovely. Thanks, Carl. And just very quickly, everybody, put in the chat where you're listening from and watching from while Ricky gives his closing monologue. Ricky, lovely to have you back, mate. Can't wait for the film to come out and see that. But brilliant to have you back for the Christmas period. Where can people find you and what you're up to?
You guys know where you can find me. You can find me on X at Ricky J Norwood. On Instagram, official Ricky Norwood, and on Insta there's a couple of pictures from the film that I was on, and if you check my stories and stuff like that, I'm normally putting up updates about the film. But yeah, it's called Jingle All the Sleigh. It's as if John Wick had Christmas. It's got fun, jokes, frolics. It's hilarious. They've got me doing some crazy stuff, like I said. So, yeah, it'll be out next year. That was fantastic. It's always good to be on, though. You know, when I go into, like, work period, I go into tunnel vision. So, I don't normally have the time to watch a game, let alone be on the pod. So, I ended up missing you guys, man. And even though we had some crazy games, I ended up missing this pod. And all of you beautiful people around the world that are messaging in right now from Melbourne, Australia. Big up yourself, Fabian. Yeah, I missed all of you guys, man. So it's great to be back. It's great to have a fantastic, relentless, ruthless win against Southampton. And it was great to be on with you beautiful gentlemen. And Bex, of course, who was on with us earlier. So, yeah, make sure you vote, and sending you all big love. And I can't wait to the next one. Love.
Excellent. Thanks, Rick. Well, thanks, everybody. It's another brilliant win for Tottenham. Let's hope we can carry that into next week. And, God, how good would it be just to be in that semi-final berth and look forward to 2025 being still in 4 competitions. I think that win today, as I said, was really, really important to set us on that path. So fingers crossed we can get a decent win against Manchester United and a start against Manchester United like we had today. That would be brilliant too. So we're not asking for much, Spurs, are we? Look, thanks for watching, for everybody. Thanks for listening. I'll see you again soon. Come on, you Spurs.